right, watch out, I'm fired! Are you all okay? Hey, trying to hit behind. Get out, get out!
I think the worst time was when we did a surge, and there was the place that we went to. There was one road in, one road out. Me and my buddy, you know, we watched these little kids just get annihilated. That one weighed heavy on my soul for a long time.
You know, there's just this smell of death in the air. Baghdad was on fire. That fog of war. I looked up and I said, you know, man, that thing is flying low. And as soon as I said low, the brigade talk blew up behind me.
I finally got to meet that white elephant. I got to test my mettle. That one question that is in all of our heads, how will I do when it's a real two-way live fire range? It's unique to be trapped and cut off, and I genuinely believed that day that I was going to die.
Our very first con-op was a 5-hour firefight. That was a pretty big one for a lot of the guys on the team, because for most of my team that was their first time in combat. And I watched the gunner get pretty much his head just snapped back and he dropped into the turret.
On 10 June, my team was responding to a unit that took on more than they could handle. So we were clearing towards the guys, and my teammate Vic was shot in the head. I was overwatching, ran into some more enemy, and in the process of that, one of the teammates was pinned down on the other side of a wadi. So I climbed up this rock pinnacle and killed the guy that had been pinned down. They gave me a Silver Star for my actions that day, and you know, I look at that award, and it's a tough thing for me. On one hand, I'm honored to have received that, but I look at it as I was rewarded for Vic dying.
As we crested a small rise in the desert, I could see enemy combatants running. I stopped my vehicle and my gunner engaged one enemy and killed him. An Afghan enemy jumped up and shot his AK-47 on full auto right at the side of the vehicle, and it struck my gunner in the chest plate of his armor, and the bullet lodged in a smoke grenade in his chest.
And as we're coming in, like I said, immediately we started taking fire. The whole city just lit up, and I saw an individual on the rooftop with an AK-47, and he was just shooting at us, and I fixed my minigun on him, and I was getting ready to engage, and that's when I noticed that friendly forces were between myself and the guy on the rooftop, and I didn't want to risk wounding any friendlies.
You see something happen that goes completely against the way you were raised, and at some point you're good with it.
On that deployment, that's when my wife sent me an email saying she was seeing another guy and she wanted a divorce, and then the F-15 crashed. That was probably the point where I think I was carrying a little bit more than I should have been.
One of the main characteristics of our soldiers is their ability to endure, so that the fact that all these effects that they had seen from combat were something that they just saw it as another burden that I'm going to carry.
I think most soldiers carry their experiences with them when they come home. They carry their memories, they carry the experience of working in the war zone, the physical toll of working in the war zone. Their body reacts and responds differently after that kind of experience, both because of their training as well as the experiences of working in a war zone.
When I went home for the first time, that's when things really started to manifest themselves.
As more and more rotations went on, I noticed that I wasn't as happy at home. I stopped talking to my former wife.
I got to the point where I didn't even want to, I was just like, I'd go to chow, I'd be by myself. You know, I'd go to the gym, I'm by myself. If I wasn't in the ops end, you know, I was by myself.
I used to come in a team room late, 10, 11 o'clock, just throw shit around, yell a little bit, crack a beer, and leave.
I go from being the happiest guy you'll ever want to be around to wanting to fight, to being totally angry, totally aggressive.
You know, I didn't want to deal with anyone. You know, I didn't want to leave my house. You know, it was, it just made me want to go back. I felt better when I was deployed. I felt right when I was downrange. Like, this all makes sense.
I don't have photographic memory by any means, but I could always put a map sheet in my head. I could always put a GRG in my head, know which buildings where. I could orient myself. I lost my ability to visualize those things, which was odd to me.
The behavior that's appropriate to a combat zone, the level of hypervigilance, the level of energy, the level of aggression that's appropriate to a combat zone just isn't appropriate to living in the United States of America.
I was on a stretch of about 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks of no sleep.
But one old gent who was in his 80s, he still had nightmares from the 1944 campaign in New Guinea, to the point where his wife told me, last week I woke up with his hands around my neck because he was still fighting the Japanese. And he was 83 years old.
I was violent in my nightmares, you know, according to my wife, and I absolutely believe her, but I was choking her and yelling at her, you know, to get down and smothering her in pillows. So I had all those things that our mental health and spiritual experts tell us will probably happen after a major near-death experience.
So all that stuff built up to that point. So when I got home, I'm just sitting up there drinking alcohol, thinking of everything that had happened on that deployment, which started making me think about everything that happened in all these other deployments. You know, you just start thinking about all this stuff. You know, what if? Why I should have done this? Why didn't I do that?
It was really apparent that all of them that had been involved in multiple combat deployments over the years had the same effects of the cumulative stress, that it had a wearing effect on them in their personalities, so how they view life, how they interact with their families, how they interact with each other, particularly how they saw the rest of society or their place in it.
When the reactivity, the combat-related reactivity, interferes with one's ability to enjoy life, interferes with social relationships with, you know, spouse or loved ones, interferes with work, then that's when we start to, you know, talk about it being a disorder.
There were many times I had been sitting and thinking, I need to talk to somebody. I can't live this way. But up to that point, the driving fact was, if I go ask for help, I'm going to get, you know, labeled weak. You know, I'm going to get fired from my job.
I honestly thought that I was just, you know, I was getting soft. You know, I was losing it.
I was weak. I wasn't a good soldier. I wasn't a good husband, father. I wasn't a man, you know. So, you know, if I go and I do something about this, they're just going to fire me, and I'm going to leave this great organization.
The two biggest things to keep someone from talking about what happened. One is your own sense of just pride. Some of us feel that there are legal ramifications, that some of these things are prosecutable, or that you might be thought of differently, or that this information could possibly be used against you.
I had lost my wife. She had been through enough. She begged and urged me to go get help, and I wouldn't do it because I was under all those impressions that, you know, I'd lose my security clearance, I'd get kicked off a team, and everyone would think I'm weak. No matter, even all the shit that I did in combat in Afghanistan, you know, highly decorated, and I was still concerned that people would think I was weak and a coward.
There's that stigma out there that if you go and you get help, you go and see mental health, you're going to lose your clearance. You're not going to be able to, you're going to come off the team because they're going to be like, hey, this guy just isn't capable of doing his job anymore.
This shameful loathing, I don't even have the right words for how bad it makes me feel to have to seek help.
When there was still more of a stigma around going to get help or getting on meds or any of the above, not wanting to lose your clearance, so on and so forth. And I think, what we did is we normalized it.
Our biggest stigma is, what do our warrior brothers think of us when we go get this type of help?
The first stigma you have to tear down isn't with your buddies. The first stigma you have to tear down is within yourself.
Probably one of the biggest lies that's propagated through the force is that they'll take my security clearance away, or they'll knock me off the list for promotion, which is it's all essentially false.
It's probably better for your career to come in and get help than it is to wait, because if you wait and the problems get worse, the anger gets worse, or the sleep problems get worse, or the problems are interfering with work, then that's going to be more likely to affect your career than if you come in and get help.
Came back from a trip overseas and about killed a civilian in the office for some minor stupid stuff. Just the anger finally got to me, and other people saw it then. I guess I'd hid it very, very well. No one else really realized it till I blew up. And a couple days after that, I went to the ER and finally kind of came clean about, what I've been hiding.
Thought of suicide never crossed my mind, but just that whole self-worth, and the feeling that, man, I'm pretty much garbage now. What good am I?
My wife had already made the decision she was going to leave, and took the kids and moved to another state where she was from. So that right there it kind of knocked me back down and turned back to the alcohol again.
I was in the gym, and for some reason I was becoming very emotional. By the time I finished the workout, I had no idea where I was at.
And then I remember one day I went to work and got in this minute argument about where I had parked my car. I parked in somebody else's spot. Something minute like that, I blew up on the guy, like ready to, punch him in the throat, throw him out the window, follow him down, and just swing at him the whole way down. So that was the point. I was trembling. I was just so upset. The rage and the aggression that I felt towards that guy, I'm like, this isn't right, man. This is my Ranger buddy. I've got to get help.
The people that cut me off in traffic almost lost their life. There were times when I had my hand on a pistol and the other hand on the door handle, and I knew if the other person came out of their car, I was going to shoot them.
The event that really made me seek help was my son Matthew's the youngest, and he was playing with a toy, and my daughter Valentina, wanted to play with the same toy. They started fighting about it, and Valentina pushed him to the floor, and I ran upstairs and I just started screaming at her, at the top of my lungs, with my face inches from her face. And I could see that she was just trembling in fear. And then my other daughter and my son started trembling in fear as well. That's the moment when, I think it was either the next day or the day after, when I said, this has got to stop. I'm done with this. I can't take this anymore.
Coming in to see a behavioral health provider is sometimes one of the hardest things a soldier can do, because in some respects, the last thing they want to do is talk about some of their combat experiences that they've had. They're difficult. There are things that are difficult to talk about. They know they're going to get triggered and react, and so it takes some courage to come in and get the help.
An old saying goes, there's either going to be a 45, a bottle of whiskey, or a Bible. I'm going to pick up one of them. And for you or for someone else, that can be a number of things, whatever it is, but I'm going to make the pain go away. Some guys do hours of PT, others start drinking too much, others go to the doc and get plenty of meds, and then some go and get actual treatment.
I grasped for every straw for help I could. I got on the phone with Military One Source and got the name of a civilian doc downtown, and went and started seeing him twice a week. Went up to the 6th floor up at Womack. Started seeing a psychiatrist up there.
Just being able to talk about like truly how you feel about some of the things that you've been through to somebody else, that was it. That's what I needed.
They're not there to walk a mile in your shoes. They're there to help you re-walk the miles you've already walked in your shoes.
It gave me several really positive tools to help manage situations and manage my responses to them, and it did help me function.
This is confidential. Your commander's going to know that you're going there, and then the regimental commander will know, and that's it. They're not going to know why. They're not going to ask questions. And he told me they're actually going to be excited because you're seeking help.
The one thing that we all learned together is if you take the names and the faces and all of the incidences out of the equation, everybody's going through the same thing.
I realized at that point it doesn't necessarily matter how many missions you've been on or how many deployments you've done. Sometimes it just affects everyone differently. It can be one mission, one bad thing that happens on a mission, or it can be 20 missions. It just doesn't matter. It's going to affect everyone differently.
They started to explain why that was happening, and they started to show me, the actual physiological reasons why my body was reacting that way.
There's not a lack of psychs that are out there to help us. There's not a lack of cognitive therapists. But what's missing is the warrior.
It's important to talk about the experiences and find a way to talk about it with someone that you're comfortable talking with. But that's a very individual thing. There are mental health professionals who can help. There are also, some soldiers find it beneficial to talk with chaplains, for instance. There's certainly soldiers can talk with each other, with friends. There are different ways to share your story, but each soldier kind of has to find what works for him.
You owe it to the soldiers in your left and your right to make sure that you're 100% ready, 100% switched on to serve, to go on with the mission.
I know that everything we use we get maintenance on, and if we don't maintenance it breaks. And I know that we are no different than any other tool right now, any other piece of equipment. We're just a human piece of equipment. And so I know if I would have got maintenance in between deployments, if I would have got maintenance while I was still in, heck, I might have actually stayed in.
I didn't have this haze in my head anymore. I could think clearly. I could think critically.
And another doc told me, Dave, PTSD has a generational effect. What that means is, my actions regarding the symptoms of PTSD have the potential to negatively affect my children for the rest of their lives. I'm not going to set my children up for failure because I'm, too proud or I'm too proud to go get help.
I've also noticed a better relationship with my son. Now, it's a million times better, I can say that.
We would all tell you that it's made our lives better, that it's definitely helped us.
It's okay to go and talk to someone. You're not going to lose your job. We're not going to think any less of you. We're not going to think you're a dirtbag. Go and get the help that you need.
They bent over backwards. In fact, they gave me the opportunity to be a company commander again, knowing that I was going through this process.
Hey, I got treatment. I got treatment. I was put on antidepressants, and not only did I get better, I got promoted, and I'm a first sergeant now. So I'm living proof you can go get help, and things will work out. Things absolutely will work out.
Addressing the issue is going to give you a better life, is going to make you a better leader, it's going to make you a better friend, a better father, a better coworker.
It never affected my clearance. It never affected my promotions. If anything, I've always gotten the recognition that you're the braver guy for standing up and saying, yeah, I've got these problems.
Go ask to see someone. Go ask to talk to someone. And if there's nothing wrong with you, great. But if they find something, they're going to help you.
Had I not gone to treatment, more than likely I would be sitting in my house by myself.
If you don't get the help, the history has proven that you'll end up doing something that will get you in enough trouble that it ends your career.
If you don't go and get help, then yeah, you're going to lose your clearance, because you're going to make a decision or you're going to do something, you know, in those moments in which you're not in your right mind that you're going to regret.
There's lots of people in our force that may be dealing with issues like you and often worse than you, that took the time to say, I'm having this problem and there's a couple of things I got to work on, but I'm going to get healthy, I'm going to get right, and I'm going to get back in the force.
You don't have to go to the chaplain, you don't have to go to the psych, you know, you don't have to go downtown and pay out of pocket. You don't even have to call one source, but everybody's got that one person they can talk to. Somebody out there will listen, somebody out there will help.
It's incumbent on everybody to understand that they need to seek help or they need to talk, that there's not going to be any retribution, there should be no stigma attached to it.
No, there is no stigma. You will not lose your clearance. And I'll mind you, there are some individual responsibilities that every individual has to accept. You will always be held accountable for your actions.
It behooves us to make sure that they can serve as long as they possibly can, and that they're healthy in their service. And that they're taking care of those things that are going to carry them through the rest of their lives, their families, what they hold dear. And it's those ones that you love the most that are going to be with you, if you're lucky, for the rest of your life.
You got to get the team room chatter going. These team leaders, team sergeants have really got to start understanding their men a little more. It's not just about training them.
I think what we need to do is work on the fact that, hey, it is courageous to step forward, and also to understand that if you step forward, there's not going to be any negative consequences of stepping forward.
Let's focus on the soldier through leadership. See, the point here is about the leadership aspect at the lowest level. Because it's not about one individual that makes a command, it's about the unit. One healthy individual hopefully spreads the fact around that it's good to be healthy and it's good to receive treatment.